It was a Monday morning, and we were sitting at the kitchen table. We had finished eating breakfast, and I was drinking my coffee and reading the morning paper. My wife, Beatrice, said, "Would you put the paper down, Rob? I have to talk to you." I put the paper down on the table and asked, "What is it, B?" "I'm leaving you, Rob. I want a divorce." "Is that all?" I picked the paper back up and started reading the sports section. "I'm serious, Rob." I ignored her, and she got agitated. "Darn it, Rob, put that paper down and talk to me." "Why?" "I've got nothing to say except goodbye. It isn't any great loss. You haven't been a good wife for over a year anyway, so go." I put the paper down and said, "Give me just a second." I got up and went into the room that I used for a home office. I picked up a pad of paper and a pen from the top of my desk and got an envelope out of one of the drawers. I went back to the kitchen table, sat down, and on the top sheet of the pad, I wrote, "Tom, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank God she's gone." I started to put it in the envelope, then had a thought. I took one of the lottery tickets I had purchased the previous evening out of my wallet and put it in the envelope. Then I added to my note, "Maybe if you get lucky and win, it will be enough to keep the cheating her satisfied with you, and she won't go out and cheat again. Good luck, dude. You're going to need it." I signed it. A very thankful Rob. I folded the page, put it into the envelope, sealed it, addressed it, and handed it to Beatrice. "When you see him, give him this." She took it, and with a shocked expression on her face, she said, "You know, just because you think I'm clueless doesn't make it so." On second thought, I took the envelope back from her. "I'll mail it to him. I don't trust you not to open it up, read it, and then throw it away. Now, why don't you go and pack and get out of my life? And since you're the one that wants to leave, you need to get out of the house ASAP. I'm not leaving. No way. Am I getting out just so you can move your lover in?" I got up, poured my coffee into a travel mug, topped it off, and left for work. On the way to work, I stopped at the bank, closed out the savings and checking accounts, and took the contents out of our safe deposit box. Then I went to a bank closer to work and opened new accounts in my name only. When I got to work, I called and canceled all of our joint credit cards and arranged for new cards in my name only. With that done, I tackled my day's workload. After work, I had dinner and drinks with my executive assistant and told her that I was back on the market if her sister was still interested. Stella laughed and said, "To heck with my sister. If you're back in circulation, I want to be first in line." Stella had started with me as a secretary 10 years ago and had proven so valuable that 4 years ago, I promoted her to my personal assistant. And then, to justify the raise I thought she deserved, I made her my executive assistant 2 years ago. On a Sunday, I'd thrown a backyard barbecue, and I had invited Stella. She told me that she couldn't make it because her sister was in town visiting, so I told her to bring her sister along. Her sister, Tara, was a very attractive, busty blonde. On Monday, Stella laughingly told me that her sister had the hots for me. I laughed and told her never to let B know that, as B could be, and had at times been, insanely jealous. Now, Stella was telling me she was interested. I'd never had a clue she might have had thoughts like that where I was concerned. "Okay then," I jokingly said, "Tara moves to second place, and you can have the top spot." "I'm not joking here, boss. I'm serious as heck. I want a shot. You might not when you hear what I have to offer." "And what is that?" She told me that she wanted a divorce, so I'm leaving it up to her and her lover to make it happen. I have no idea what their timetable might be. Her lover. She hooked up with a guy about 1.5 years ago, and I guess she finally decided that a couple of days a week with him weren't enough. So she's going full-time. "How long have you known?" 1.5 years. I've known almost since the day it started." "How could you know that?" "She was seen by a friend of mine going into a motel room with a man, and she gave me a call. I put a private detective on B for a week, and he got me all the proof I needed to know. 1.5 years, and you did nothing about it. What was there to do? Get all angry about it and turn my life upside down. This state is no fault. Everything would have to be split 50/50ths. I would have had to sell the house and split the proceeds with her. I would have had to give up the pool, the hot tub, my woodworking shop, and my 3-car garage and move into an apartment somewhere. No, thank you. I decided to just ignore it and let her cook for me, do my laundry, and clean the house. How could you stand being around her, knowing that she was cheating on you? You would be surprised at how quickly love can turn into hate, and then hate turns into indifference. I can't believe that a healthy guy like you could go a year and a half without intimacy. I didn't go without. As long as B still offered, I still took, and she did still offer, although the frequency did drop some. I wouldn't touch her on the days I knew she had been with him, but other than that, the only change was that I stopped making love and started just having casual relations. Do you have any idea why she did it? Not a clue, but he probably wasn't the first one. You think she has had other lovers? I have no way of knowing for sure, but what I do know is that in the 10 years we've been married, she has gone into a certain mood 4 times that I can remember. 4 times that she has behaved like she does now. It's only a guess, but I'd almost bet that the other times were for the same reason. If she hadn't been seen and I hadn't been alerted to what was going on, I would have taken the recent mood as just another one of those female things. I may be all wrong in my thinking, but it really doesn't matter. I know about this one, and that's all I need to know to confirm she's a cheating liar. What are you going to do now? Wait. Wait for what? To see what she's going to do. She's on her own now. I've cleaned out the bank accounts, canceled all of her credit cards, and told her to get out of the house. She wanted a divorce, so I'm leaving it to her to get it. Since she doesn't make enough to support herself and pay for an attorney, she'll have to get the money from her lover. And I don't know if he'll give it to her. I'm assuming that they talked it over before she hit me with it, but I have no way of knowing. What I am saying here is that if you are really interested, you will be running around with a married man who has no idea how long it will be before he is divorced. You are not thinking too clearly here, Rob. How so? If she goes for the divorce, she is in control. You will get served, and it could be bad. You have no idea what she might do. You could be ordered to vacate the house and maintain her pending hearings. What if she files and says that it is because of mental and physical cruelty, and she gets a restraining order keeping you away from her and the house? You need to be the one setting the pace, boss. You need to be in the driver's seat, making her respond to you, not the other way around. Besides, you filing helps me. Helps you. If you were going to wait and let her file, what if she doesn't? What if lover boy won't give her the money to do it? That would put us in the position of committing adultery, and she could use that against you down the line. You say she cheated, and she says, so what, you did too. If you file, you are saying that, as far as you're concerned, the marriage is over, and what you do from that point on is none of her business. From a strictly legal point of view, you will still be legally married until the divorce is final. Taking up with me would still technically be adultery, but no court would use it against you as long as it didn't start before you separated from B. So, from where I sit, I need to stay away from you until either you or B get the legal ball rolling. If we wait on her, it could be years, or it could be next week. But with her controlling things, if you do it, it could be as soon as this weekend. If you could get in to see an attorney early tomorrow, you could conceivably have B served by Thursday, and that would give me the weekend to work on hooking you. Hooking me. Darn straight, boss man. What good does it do to be first on the list if you don't take advantage of it? She was right, and I knew it, so I took out my cell phone and used speed dial to call Josh. Josh and I had been friends since the 3rd grade, and Josh was now an attorney who practiced family law. Family law was a polite term for divorce law. When he answered, I told him that I needed his legal services and explained my problem. He was sorry to hear it because he and his wife, Sally, were friends of ours, and he liked B. but he told me that he would get on it as soon as he got into his office in the morning. Then he told me to stop in and see him around lunchtime. I could sign the papers, and we could go to lunch. Just to be difficult, I told him that I wanted a restraining order. I fibbed and told him that B had said if I gave her any problems over her leaving me, she would see to it that her lover, Tom Noble, straightened me out. Josh laughed and told me that he knew that was pure nonsense, but he would do it. You do know that there will be a hearing within 10 days on the order, right? I can get it and have it served, but there will have to be a hearing before a judge will order it to remain in force. I know, and I'll be ready for it. But right now, the big thing is to get her out of the house and keep her out for a while. We have no kids, so there's no real reason for her to get the use of the house while the divorce proceeds. Ongoing with the possession is 9 points of the law thing here. No reason for the judge to order me out and let her in is what I'm shooting for. I told her to get out when we spoke this morning, but I don't know what I'll find when I get home. She may be gone, but she may still be there. Since I don't know for sure where she will be, plan on serving her at work. No chance of you two working things out. Not a prayer. See you tomorrow. I disconnected and looked across the table at Stella. So, what do you have planned for me this weekend? She outlined her ideas, and they sounded pretty good to me. When I got home, B was sitting at the kitchen table, sorting through some papers. Why are you still here? I asked as I walked to the fridge and got a beer. It's still my house too. I'm staying here until I can make other arrangements. If you object to my company, feel free to move out. And let you move your lover in, not on your life. You need to sit down so we can discuss what we are going to do. Don't think so. We aren't going to do anything. I know what I'm going to do, and I don't care what you are going to do. There are things that need to be worked out, Rob. No, there aren't. Beatrice, it's simple. You said that you wanted a divorce, so you get to go and get it. You get to hire the attorney, you get to file the paperwork, and you get to pay all the court costs. What I will do is fight you tooth and nail over every last little thing. We live in a no-fault state. Everything gets split 50-50ths, so decisions will have to be made over who gets what as part of their half. I will drag things out so your attorney fees just keep climbing and climbing. You do know that they don't work for free, right? You want the coffee table. Well, guess what? I want it too. You want the sofa. Too bad, B. It has great sentimental value to me, and I just have to have it. Why? You don't care about any of that stuff. You weren't even emotional when I told you that I wanted a divorce. All you did was tell me to pack and get out. That was before I had time to think about it. I said, taking a chance and looking her in the eye. I let you get away with it the first 3 times because you stayed. I loved you enough to keep quiet and keep you because you came back to me. She looked away when I mentioned the first 3 times, confirming what I had suspected. I continued, I don't know why I accepted it, but I did. I thought maybe I had done something that really upset you, and you felt you had to do it to get back at me. You eventually ended the affair, and I foolishly thought it was because you realized you loved me. So you came back to me. I looked down at the floor and felt the weight of it all. I thought that this thing with Noble was just more of the same, but I can see now that I was wrong. I've come to realize that you were nothing but a low-life cheater. If you hadn't decided to leave me for Noble, you would have been with someone else in 6 months or a year from now. After thinking about it, I decided that I had to get some sort of revenge. What I really want to do is take a thick belt and beat your rear end so bad it would break the skin and have you bleeding on the floor, but that would only send me to jail. The only thing I can do that won't see me locked up is to make the divorce as difficult and costly as I can for you. You're right. This is also your house, and if you choose to stay, outside of physically tossing you out and probably involving the cops, I have to let you be here. But I don't have to like it, and I don't have to interact with you. Move into one of the spare bedrooms and stay out of my way. I finished my beer and went up to what had been our bedroom to get ready for bed. I thought I'd accomplished what I set out to do. I'd given her things to think about, and she would need to talk things over with Noble and make decisions, which would take time. Time that Josh could use to get her served with the restraining order. I could be wrong. B may have already seen a lawyer, and papers might already be heading my way. But I didn't think that was the case. I had gotten the balances when I canceled the credit cards, and they were about what I had expected. When I took the cash out of the bank, it was pretty much what I thought it should be. If she had seen a lawyer, she hadn't used our money to pay him. Of course, Noble could be footing the bill. All I could do was wait and hope that Josh got his order in first. I was up and out of the house before B came out of whichever of the 2 spare bedrooms she had chosen to use. I stopped at the B&B cafe for breakfast, and as I sipped my coffee, I made a list of who to call as soon as B was served. I was not going to let her make me the bad guy. I would tell everyone about the divorce, and I would tell them why. At work, Stella told me she was really looking forward to the weekend, and I found myself hoping it would happen. I met Josh for lunch, and he slid the papers across the table. I signed them. He said he would go to the city-county building after lunch to file them. "You still want her served at work?" Josh asked. "Darn straight I do. Figure tomorrow around 10. Call me as soon as it happens. I want the locks on the house changed before she can get home." I went back to work and made arrangements to take the next day off. Before I left the office, I called the locksmith and made arrangements for quick service the next day. It cost me a bit extra, but I felt it was worth it. When I got home, Bee's car was in the driveway, but she must have stayed in her room and out of my way because I never saw her. The next morning, I was up and out of the house before Bee came downstairs, and I went to the B&B for breakfast. Angie asked, "Where's Bee? I never see you in here without her. 2 days in a row now, and you're alone. You won't be seeing us together anymore. We're splitting up," I told her as she took my order. When she placed the bill down on the table, she said, "My phone number is on the back. Not the restaurant number, my number." I couldn't help but feel like a poor guy as Angie walked away. She made it 2 women in as many days who let me know they were interested, so why wasn't I enough for the woman I'd married? I'd never know because I would never ask. I drank coffee and read the morning paper, waiting for the time when Bee normally left for work. Then I went home and started packing Bee's things, moving them into the garage. At 10:15, Josh called and told me the papers had been served, so I called the locksmith. 20 minutes later, he was at the house and doing his thing. He hadn't been gone an hour when Bee came whipping into the driveway. She couldn't miss the wide-open garage door and the big cardboard sign that said, "All your things are here and in the garage, V." She stood there staring at the sign for a minute, then tried to get into the house, but her keys wouldn't work. She rang the doorbell, but I didn't answer. Eventually, she left. I looked in the garage and saw that she had taken a couple of bags of her things. 2 minutes after she pulled out of the driveway, my cell went off. It was B. "Hello, you jerk. Did you have to embarrass me in front of my coworkers? Better than letting you embarrass me in front of mine. You told me I had to get the divorce, and what's with the restraining order? I was afraid you'd have Noble come over and beat me up for being mean to you. That's nonsense. And you know it. I need to get into the house and get some things. All of your things are in the garage, B. I haven't changed the garage door code, so your opener will still work. If what you want isn't there, make me a list. Tell me where it is, and I'll move it to the garage. Stop messing around, Rob. You're making this far more difficult than it needs to be. Sorry, B. Causing you some inconvenience isn't much in the way of payback for years of mistreating me, but I have to do something, if only for my mental health. Just be thankful I didn't get violent. Goodbye, B." After I disconnected from B, I got on the phone and started calling all the names on my list. Most were shocked to find out that B had cheated on me, but 2 weren't surprised. One said, "Finally caught her, huh?" The other said, "I always thought you had an open marriage thing. She was always off with some guy, and you never said anything about it." I figured I could cross those 2 off my list of friends. The two people most affected by the news were B's parents. I had always liked them, and they had treated me almost like the son they never had. I wasn't going to let B tell them, and make it seem like it was all my fault. If I allowed that, they wouldn't think well of me, and I didn't want that. After making all the calls, I made one more pass through the house, looking for any more of B's things. Then, I fixed myself some lunch. I had just finished eating when the guys from Apex Security showed up. Not trusting B at all, and having no doubt that she would violate the restraining order and try to get into the house, I decided to install a security system, complete with cameras. When the Apex guys were gone, I had a choice: work on the bookshelf in my woodworking shop, or the 1934 Ford 3-window coupe I was restoring in the garage. The Ford won, and I got busy. On Thursday at work, I told Stella we were good to go for the weekend. She smiled and said, "Tomorrow night then. Dinner and dancing for a start." I had to smile. When I got home, B had done just what I knew she would. She had used her garage door opener to get into the garage, grabbed some things, then broken into the house through the connecting door from the garage. She had trashed the kitchen. There were broken dishes and glasses all over the floor, and she had broken several lamps in the living room. The cameras caught it all. The one that really made me smile was the one where she took all my clothes out of the closet, piled them on the floor, and urinated on them. Why did that make me smile? It was all on tape, and I had evidence that she had not only violated the restraining order, but had been maliciously destructive. I could use this at the restraining order hearing. I called Josh, and he called the police. The police showed up, took a report, and some pictures. The next day, B was arrested at work and taken to jail. She was fingerprinted, photographed, and hustled in front of a judge. She was charged with violating the restraining order and the willful destruction of private property. The judge set a hearing date and released B on her own recognizance. Frankly, I was surprised it went that far. My date with Stella was fun, and we made a second date for Saturday. It also went well, and we went out again on Sunday for a picnic. On Monday, the hearing was held for the restraining order. When the judge saw the tapes from the security system, he not only made the restraining order permanent, but also ordered B to replace all the destroyed items, pay for the dry cleaning of my clothes, and pay for the bedroom cleaning since some of her urine had soaked into the carpet. He gave her 10 days to get it done, or be jailed for contempt of court. Just to be difficult, I hired the most expensive cleaning company I could find to do the work. B disappointed me. She actually came up with the money to do everything the judge ordered. I had been looking forward to her being locked up for contempt of court. The next 2 weeks went by, and Stella and I dated frequently. There wasn't much more going on than some kissing, though some of it got pretty intense. Neither of us felt comfortable with the fact that I was still a married man, but we were slowly approaching the point where things would get serious. We didn't fight the divorce, and in 6 months, it was final. It was a standard no-fault divorce, with everything being split 50-50ths. I refinanced the house and bought out B. I still made out much better than B on the deal. I had been putting money aside in a separate account to pay for a surprise around-the-world trip for our 20th anniversary. Since she didn't know about it, I didn't give her a dime of it. She also didn't know about the last 2 certificates of deposit I had put into the safe deposit box. I had bought them with my last 2 bonus checks. I had one more small victory. B was awarded alimony for 2 years or until she remarried, but it was only set at $100 a week instead of the $500 she had tried for. It was unexpected, and Josh told me we had gotten extremely lucky with the judges assigned to my cases. The judge who heard the restraining order and the judge who oversaw the divorce were cousins, and both had backgrounds involving cheating wives. Neither believed that an innocent husband should be penalized for a cheating wife's behavior. While they followed the law, they wouldn't go one step farther than the law dictated. Whatever B had with Noble apparently wasn't all that strong, because 7 months after the divorce was final, she was living with her parents. It was 8 months after the divorce became final, and I was sitting at the bar in the Hilton having a beer and a steak sandwich for lunch. Someone sat down on the stool next to me, and a voice asked, "Buy you a beer?" I looked over and saw my ex-wife's former lover. "Would like to have a word or two with you," he said. Being curious, I told him to go ahead, and he waved Agnes over and ordered both of us a beer. She brought them over, and he took a pull on his, set it down on the bar, and looked at it for several seconds. Then he started to peel the label off the bottle. As the little pile grew in front of him, he said, "I didn't mean to mess things up for you." Still focused on the bottle, he went on. "She wasn't wearing her wedding rings the night I met her, so I didn't know she was married, and she sure didn't act like a married woman. She was in Bud's bar with a group of girls she worked with, and I asked her to dance. She said yes. I bought her a drink, and she invited me to sit with her and the other girls. I danced with her 3 more times and asked her for a date. She said yes. I fell for her big time, and inside a month, we were seeing each other whenever we could. At first, we had to use motels because I was sharing an apartment with 2 roommates, and one of them was always around. We couldn't use her place because she said she was living with her mother, who was sick. She said that's why we couldn't get together more often. She had to take care of her mother, and could only go out when someone else was available to watch her. I finally got my own apartment so we wouldn't have to use motels anymore. Even though we couldn't meet regularly, I had fallen in love with her and was about to ask her to marry me. I was going to buy a house big enough for us and her mother, but before I could pop the question, a guy I know asked me why I was messing around with a cheater. I was all set to whip his behind when he told me that B was married and had been cheating on her husband. It wasn't the first time either. Seems 2 years earlier, she had been cheating on you with his brother. When his brother found out she was married, he broke up with her. I was still having trouble believing it when I got your letter. I sat on it for a week before I confronted her. She broke down crying, telling me she didn't love you, that you were an abusive drunk, and that you had threatened her. She said you'd hunt her down if she left, but I had already done some checking and knew she was lying. After that, all thoughts of marrying her were gone. She was good company, though, and you had kicked her out, so I let her move in with me. As long as she was willing to stay around, things were fine, but when the divorce was final and she started talking about marriage, I shot her down. My parents split up because my mom cheated on my dad. She remarried and then cheated on her new husband, too. I am a firm believer in the saying, once a cheater, always a cheater. I told B as much. I told her we could be friends with benefits, but that was as far as I was willing to go. About 3 weeks after I told her that, I came home from work and found she was gone. He took another pull on his beer and said, "Rumor has it you knew all along that she and I were together. Why didn't you divorce her sooner? You said it yourself. She was really good in bed." I replied. "I figured to heck with it, just let things be. I'd get the benefits of a relationship, cooking, cleaning, and laundry, without the headache. Things would probably still be that way if she hadn't told me she wanted a divorce." He took another pull on his beer and said, "I never thought I'd say this, let alone to you, but I missed having her in my bed." He finished his beer, stood up, took something out of his pocket, and slid it over to me. "What's that?" I asked. "That lottery ticket you gave me. It was a winner. That's your half. I waited until now to give it to you, so you wouldn't have to share it in the divorce. See you around." He left. I picked up the slip of paper and saw it was a cashier's check for a large amount. A very, very large amount. When I got back to the office, Jin, my PA, said, "You look like the cat that just ate the canary. Was lunch that good?" "Lunch was spectacular," I replied. "Oh right," she said, with a knowing smile. Stella didn't work for me anymore. At least not in the office. She was home painting the room that was going to be the nursery when the twins arrived. Story 2. What really hurt the most was watching her get ready for her date night. She put on lingerie and stockings, spent time doing her makeup and fixing her hair, and then slipped into a dress I had never seen before. She finished the look with high heels, an outfit she had never worn for me. I felt betrayal, jealousy, and anger stir deep inside me. She was doing all this for Mark Diamond, her boss, not for me. She was making herself desirable for another man while I was working hard to provide her with a good life and family. It was incomprehensible. Our intimacy had always been amazing, and Jessica had always made me feel loved. There was no reason to distrust her. After 20 years of marriage, I knew her, or at least I thought I did. Then there was that night at her company's dinner. Her boss, Mark Diamond, the managing partner at the law firm, gave her more attention than I liked, but it was the smirk he gave me after dancing with her that set off my alarms. The next day, I confronted Jessica about it, and the way she defended him, trying to make me feel like I had overreacted, confirmed my suspicions. Too many late meetings, too many missed lunches, it all registered as a red flag. I decided to look into things further. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Jessica worked closely with Mark, the partner at a prestigious law firm. He flaunted his wealth with expensive cars, jewelry, and a lavish lifestyle. His wife, Stella, was a young, beautiful trophy wife, someone he had traded up to after divorcing his wife of 20 years. Mark enjoyed making jokes at the expense of others. I remembered how he once made fun of my job, selling screws and fasteners to large retail chains. It wasn't glamorous, but I earned over $200,000 a year, more than enough to give Jessica the life she wanted, and to pay for our daughter Sarah's college education. We lived in a pleasant community, had good friends, and enjoyed a comfortable lifestyle. I wasn't a millionaire like Mark, but we were happy, or so I thought. The night Mark decided to make fun of my job in front of my wife and others really ticked me off, not just because of his arrogance, but because of how Jessica defended him after he humiliated me. "Johnny, how's the nut and bolt business? Bet you get screwed a lot, huh? Must be fun working at Home Depot every day." Jessica laughed. My blood boiled. I walked away without saying a word. To her credit, she came over and asked what was wrong. When I told her, she brushed it off, saying, "Oh, baby, he's just kidding around. He likes to have fun. Don't take it so personally. Come back with me. He's really a nice guy." Against my better judgment, I stayed at the dinner for the rest of the evening. Looking back, I should have seen the signs, but I realize now I may have missed some danger signals. Heck, I'm nobody's fool, and I wouldn't sit quietly. I could understand the attraction to Mark from others. He was the alpha, large, strong, good-looking, and the rich partner of the firm, the one everybody wanted to be around. Jessica was his closest ally in the firm, his valued and trusted right-hand person. Everything was adding up. It didn't matter that he had a younger, attractive wife. To a jerk like Mark, he wanted it all. And claiming another man's wife was definitely on his scorecard. Over the next week, I acted quickly to find out if I was crazy or if my intuition was right. After the 6 audio recording devices and 5 video cameras arrived, I started my plan of action. The first video camera was hidden in the smoke detector on our bedroom ceiling. The next 2 cameras were set up at different angles in the bedroom to capture a full view. I placed the others in the master bathroom and living room. All the video cameras had a live feed option up to 8K recording and were wirelessly linked back to a dedicated computer, which I set up in the attic, all remotely controlled with my phone app. Besides the video, the audio devices were unique. One was enclosed in a pen, which I placed next to the kitchen phone. Another I hid in her car. The rest were concealed in her 3 favorite purses and one behind our bed. With this setup, I should have been able to capture at least 90% of her conversations and any activity in the house. I had a bad feeling about the next week when I would be on the road for sales calls. As always, Jessica was loving and made me feel cherished just before I left for an overnight trip. She started with lots of kisses and sweet talk, telling me how much she loved me and wanted to be intimate. Her affection was something I'd always cherished, and she never let me down. It was an amazing night, and I felt so close to her. I almost abandoned my surveillance plan, thinking there was no way she could be unfaithful. Fortunately, I didn't change my plans. I left things as they were and headed off for a 2-night trip, giving her plenty of time if there was something going on. We kissed goodbye, and I was on the road by 6:00 p.m. for my 3-hour drive to the hotel. The drive allowed me to replay the last 6 months, searching for anything different. But aside from the 2 scenes with her boss, the smirk and his attempt at humiliating me, there was nothing out of the ordinary. A smile crept across my face as I realized I was being foolish and paranoid. When I arrived at the hotel, I checked into my room and fired up my laptop. As I relaxed on the king-size bed, I checked my emails for work messages and then clicked on the link to the server in my attic to review the last 3 hours. I knew there would be nothing to see, but I needed to test the remote access system. I sped through the video at 3x speed until I saw my wife in the bedroom. I slowed it down to normal speed to enjoy watching my beautiful wife as she made a phone call. What I didn't expect was the content of the conversation. An hour after I left, she called Mark. The video camera picked up the audio, and I watched her lie on the bed, talking to her boss while rubbing herself. I could only hear her side of the conversation. "Hi, sweetheart. He's gone, and I'm all alone. Yes, 2 nights this time. When can you come over? Won't your wife ask where you're going? Oh my God, that's great. Can you spend the night with me? I really want to wake up next to you. Yes, absolutely. I'm all yours, baby. And yes, my body belongs to you. What time will you be here? Okay. See you soon. I love you, baby." I sat there in shock. We had just made the most passionate love. She told me she loved me. And now, an hour later, she was inviting him over to spend the night. Who was this woman? How could she love me so much and betray me? Moments later, I watched my loving wife get ready for her lover. She showered, put on her lingerie, heels, and makeup, fixing her hair for 30 minutes. It was incredibly painful to watch. I had always known she was beautiful, but she never dressed like this for me. Anger and jealousy raged through me as I realized she was doing all this for Mark. I found it too hard to believe. Was Mark really coming over tonight, or was this just a misunderstanding? That question was answered a few minutes later when the doorbell rang, and I watched Mark enter my house and give Jessica a hard kiss, right in front of the video camera. "Wow, baby, you look amazing in that dress. I can't wait to take it off you and make love to you all night," he said as he looked her up and down with a smile. The exchange between them angered me, but the real pain hit when I watched her lead him up to our bedroom. The hurt grew as I watched her undress him, his smug smile never fading. He was a big man, with a strong body and 6-pack abs. I watched, consumed by jealousy, rage, and anger. Jessica dropped to her knees and performed for him, doing things she had never done for me. My head was spinning, and I was dizzy with rage and hate for this man. After a second round of throwing up in the wastebasket, I listened to them talk after they were done. Mark started the conversation, lying next to her in bed. "So the little cuckold is gone for a few nights. Good. You're mine for the next 2 days. I'm so happy we can spend the night together. Be nice, Mark. I love him. He's a good man," Jessica replied. "Then why do you let me sleep with you?" "Because you're the sexiest man I know. I love the way you make me feel." That part really hurt because that love he was talking about was only supposed to be for me. But now I realized she shared her love with another man. I continued to listen and watch them cuddle, kiss, and talk. "Does your husband satisfy you like I do?" Mark asked. "He's a wonderful lover. But no, not like you. You do things to me I can't explain," Jessica replied. I sat there, sad and hurt, with a deep feeling of loss. I shut the computer and couldn't listen to any more of this betrayal in my own house and bed. After several hours of not sleeping and dealing with my anger, I knew there was a great deal of pain and revenge in my future. When I came back home, all was normal, total love and respect, as if nothing had happened. Jessica welcomed me with a big hug and lots of kisses, acting like everything was fine. But instead of feeling love for her, I now felt repulsion and flinched at her touch. I put on a great act, behaving as normal as I could. I gathered all the recordings and videos, made copies to the cloud as a backup, and created an encrypted file on my PC. For the next 2 weeks, I made sure every second of Jessica's time was accounted for. I kept her busy, giving them no opportunity for a quick encounter or late-night meeting. She even asked me when my next trip was planned, clearly eager for me to leave. One morning, I listened to her conversation while she drove to work. "When is your husband going out of town again?" Mark asked. "I need your love," Jessica replied. "Not sure, but I'll find out. It should be soon, baby." With that knowledge, I planned a one-night trip to make sure he came over while I was gone. The plan was taking shape. That same night, while watching a movie on TV, my cheating wife asked, "Honey, when's your next trip?" I tried to hold back my anger and replied, "Sweetheart, are you trying to get rid of me? Do you have a secret lover that comes over when I'm gone?" I laughed, pretending to joke. She didn't miss a beat and showed no signs of guilt. "Don't be silly. I love having you at home. I was just wondering if your traveling has slowed down." "No, sorry, sweetheart. The job still requires me to travel. Yes, next Tuesday, I have an overnight trip planned. I'll be back sometime on Wednesday." She responded convincingly, "I hate when you leave. I miss you so much when you're gone." Then she hugged me, gave me a big kiss, and made me feel more love than I could explain. When I realized she was giving this same love to another man, I wanted to scream and throw her out, but I kept my facade, knowing the next week would bring my plan into action. Tuesday, I packed for my trip. Jessica and I had our final intimate session. After that night, there would be no more us. She gave me a wonderful kiss before I left, and I wondered if she noticed the sadness in my eyes as I looked at her for the last time. Her facial expression changed, but I wasn't sure what she was thinking. Showtime. Instead of driving out of town, I drove back to my office and parked my car. I then went back to my desk to work late, which wasn't unusual. The few people who were there never questioned my presence. Around 7:30, the video camera in my home activated when Mark entered, giving my future ex-wife another loving kiss. It was showtime. After switching off the video camera with my phone app, I placed my cell phone in my desk drawer, not wanting the GPS to track my movements. Quietly, I left the office, took out the folding electric bike from my trunk, and put on a black hoodie. I looked around to make sure no one noticed me and began the 12-mile ride back to my house. The electric bike allowed me to move stealthily and get back home unnoticed. I parked the bike at the back of the house and entered through the rear sliding door, which I had rigged to remain open. Inside, I stood silently, making sure I wasn't discovered. I listened to the sounds coming from the bedroom. Once I confirmed they were engaged, I retrieved the short-barreled shotgun and aluminum bat I had hidden earlier and carried them to the bedroom. I gently placed the shotgun against the wall outside the bedroom, held the bat, and quietly opened the door. They were making so much noise that they didn't hear or see me as I walked the short distance to the bed. Jessica was on her back, her legs wrapped around his large body. He was taking what was promised only to me. I didn't hesitate. I took a solid swing to the side of his head. The blunt sound of metal hitting flesh was only overtaken by the thud of the 250-pound man hitting the floor. While he fell, I grabbed the shotgun and switched on the lights. Jessica, stunned and in shock, screamed, "Oh God, no, please no, this can't be happening. Why are you here? You're supposed to be away." "Well, why are you with another man in my bed?" I replied. "Now shut up and pay attention." The big man was semi-conscious, sitting against the wall, blood running down from the 6-inch gash the bat had caused. As he regained consciousness, he looked at me, confused. "That hurt, man. Why did you do that?" he mumbled. "Are you kidding? You're with my wife in my bed, and you don't think I'd react." "What are you going to do?" he asked nervously, glancing at the gun I had pointed at him. "Are you scared? You should be. I know you've been fooling around behind my back, and tonight is payback. I'm going to kill you, Mark. Tonight. It's over," I taunted. I continued, "Everything you've worked for will be gone, all for a few cheap thrills. I hope it was worth it. Man, if you kill me, you'll go to jail for the rest of your life," he stammered. "Forget it. We all die tonight. How does that sound?" I was acting hyped up, scaring both of them. Jessica was now crying, curled up in a ball, trying to cover herself with the bed sheet. "Baby, please don't do anything stupid. I love you. I really do. Put the gun down, and let's discuss this," she pleaded. With an evil grin, I turned the gun on her. "Shut up. This is happening because you had to go find another man. Whatever happens tonight is all on you." I turned back to him, mocking. "Look at your lover. He's wet himself. I guess you're just a scared little boy, huh?" I was deliberately acting out of control, letting them know they were in deep trouble. The custom shells in the shotgun were 25% salt and 75% capsaicin, like what's used in pepper spray. I didn't plan to kill anyone, just make sure the pain lasted a lifetime. I wanted to leave them with a night they would never forget. Once Mark recovered from the hit to his head, he tried to lunge at me to disarm me. I was waiting for exactly that. When he made his move, I unloaded the first round into his groin. The blast was loud, but his screams were even louder. The pepper cloud filled the air around Mark and his bleeding wound. He couldn't see or breathe without choking. The pain was unimaginable. I was shocked by the damage the non-lethal round caused. Even at close range, the blast tore flesh and filled his skin with the capsaicin. The pain must have been unbearable. Several minutes later, as he sat in agony, I explained how things would go. "Listen up, Mark, and you too, Jessica. I'm leaving in a few minutes. You will take this man to the emergency room before he bleeds out. You will not call 911. You will take him in your car to the hospital and tell no one how this happened or that I was involved." I gave Mark a kick to get his attention. "You'll say you don't remember anything, and if anyone asks, you tell them I had no clue about the affair. If either of you says a word about me, I'll release the video, audio, and photos I've collected. I'll send them to your wife, your partners at the firm, and everyone you know." I left the same way I came, fixing the lock and shutting the door behind me. I tossed the bat and gun into different parts of the river on my ride back to the office. Once back at my desk, I acted like I'd been working late all night, ensuring my alibi was airtight. By the time I got home the next afternoon, everything had hit the fan. Mark went in for surgery for reconstruction. Unfortunately for him, the closeness of the blast obliterated both testicles and caused severe damage to his groin area. The surgical team worked to reconstruct what was left, which ended up being less than 4 inches of mutilated flesh. His head had to be shaved to give him 18 stitches, as he suffered a concussion from the blow. The story he gave was that the last thing he remembered was walking up to his personal assistant's home with some paperwork, and then being in the hospital. He told the police that he didn't remember seeing anyone or being hit. He kept his mouth shut, knowing I could ruin him and his career. Jessica was beside herself and never said a word about the incident. All she would say is that she heard the gunshot, and when she came outside, she saw Mark lying there and brought him to the hospital because she didn't think there was time to wait for an ambulance. Neither of them could explain why he was naked, but both stuck to their stories. However, Mark's wife didn't believe him, which would soon become a big problem for Mark. I spent the afternoon removing the surveillance equipment, uploading everything to an encrypted cloud server, and tossing the equipment. Any remaining evidence of my knowledge of their affair was now out of reach. Jessica came in around 6:00 p.m. to find me in the living room nursing a bottle of my good whiskey. I sat there quietly as she sat across from me on the couch. She looked broken and sad. I'd never seen her like this. For a brief second, I felt sorry for her. With tears in her eyes, she broke down and tried to explain. "Johnny, I know what you saw it as bad, but you need to know that I wasn't in love with him. I know what it looked like and what I said, and that must have hurt, but you know me. After intimacy, I need a connection. I said those things with you in my heart. Everything was for you, baby. Whenever you left, I hated being alone, and Mark was able to keep me company. Yes, it became sexual, but it was only sex. You have to believe me." My mouth was open wide in amazement at the incomprehensible excuse she laid out. Apparently, she was with him while thinking of me. So many questions and so little trust. "Jessica, I listened to your explanation, but I'll never get the sight of you with him out of my head. And even though you said those words of love were for me, I can't help but believe they were for Mark. It's over, Jessica. 20 wonderful years are over because of your boss and your adultery. We will both have to live with your actions for the rest of our lives. Thank you for the pain and misery you've given me. I'll treasure it always," I said sarcastically. "What do we do now?" she asked as tears fell from her face. "Well, you and I are done. I'll never understand how you did what you did to me or why. I'll have to live with that forever. There's no way I can ever forgive what you've done. But I'll keep my promise and not reveal your infidelity. Sarah and your parents will never know. I'll let you explain why we're getting divorced. But I warn you, do not make me the bad guy. If you do, it won't end well. And I'll make sure everyone knows the truth. I'm putting the house up for sale, and you need to find a place to stay. Since you're the one who ruined things, you need to move out. I'm not asking. That's what you will do. Let me know where you want the divorce papers sent. Sign them, and don't fight the divorce, or it will be painful for you and your boyfriend." Crying into her hands, she tried to speak. "He's not my boyfriend, and I don't love him. Can't we work this out? Is there anything we can do? I know it's too late after what I've done, but I can't live without you, and I'll do anything to keep us together. I never wanted to lose you. Please don't leave me. You know, Jessica, if it was only the physical part, there might have been a way back through counseling or separation. But it was over when I saw you with him. It crushed me when you told him you would never do that for me. Yes, I heard you say that. I also heard you offer to do things you never would with me. Those two things alone ended any chance of reconciliation. But what really ended my love for you was how you shared the love that was just for me with him. Hearing the words you said to him killed us, and everything I ever felt for you. I can't believe you not only gave him your body, but you gave him our intimacy and love. For that, I can never take you back or trust your love again. No, I'll never forget or forgive your betrayal, and I'll never want to see or talk to you again. Once the divorce is final, you'll be out of my life forever. As far as Mark goes, if he does anything to upset me, I'll ruin both of you with no notice or warning." After several hours of begging me to forgive her, she left the next morning and stayed with her mom and dad until the house sold. Over the next week, the police interviewed me and tried to get me to admit my involvement. I got a lawyer, and we told them that unless they could produce some evidence of my involvement, I would no longer answer questions without a warrant. Since there was no evidence and I had an alibi, they left me alone. The incident was eventually listed as a random burglary and assault. Jessica and her family called and begged me to reconsider. I was told that she loved me and couldn't live without me. Sorry, please forgive her. Please work this out. Counseling. Blah, blah, blah. I never returned their calls or opened the door when they stopped by. I changed my phone number and had no contact with any of them. Yes, it killed me to lose her. Every second away from her was painful, but the memory of her betrayal and how she gave her love to another man was something I could not get over. Jessica was now a 42-year-old single mom living on her salary in a one-bedroom apartment. The pleasant life she once enjoyed was gone. Her daughter and family figured things out and weren't happy with Jessica or her choices. They blamed her for the failed marriage. Jessica was now alone. Since Mark was more interested in saving his own marriage, he treated her poorly at work and blamed her for his physical and marital problems. He could no longer work with her and moved her to an administration area, though she kept the same pay. Her new job was tedious and boring. She no longer had the prestigious position of working with one of the partners, and word got out that she had been with Mark. She was treated accordingly. Now, with a job she hated, no prospects of moving up, no friends, no husband, and a family that blamed her for the divorce, she started down a road to depression. She cried every night, alone, and missed Johnny with every fiber of her being. Her heart hurt almost all the time, and she constantly thought about her actions and loss. Sarah tried to help her mom, but there seemed to be no way back. Jessica lost weight, wasn't eating right, and drank heavily every night. She refused to take care of herself, saying that without Johnny, she had no reason to care anymore. When Sarah reached out to her dad for advice, he felt sorry for Jessica's situation, but could never get over the betrayal and never spoke to her again. Stella, however, put things together and made Mark's life a living hell. She made him move into one of the guest rooms, and he paid dearly for his infidelity. Stella ended up dating several younger men and kept Mark around to pay all the bills. She agreed to be at his side as eye candy for company events or business meetings, but they lived separate lives. Mark would never have intimacy again or experience love from a woman for the rest of his life. He would live with that moment when his entire life changed, all because of his desire to take another man's wife. He was able to keep his manhood, albeit much smaller than before. Unfortunately for him, he lost all sensation due to nerve damage and also lost part of his reproductive organs after the gunshot obliterated them that fateful night. His anger toward me was epic, and he wanted to hurt me in the worst way, but nothing happened for several months. Later that year, I was out with my workmates for drinks when I was jumped and beaten outside the bar. Luckily, my buddies came out to help, and the attackers left before the police arrived. I spent 2 days in the hospital with broken ribs and 20 stitches. I believe they wanted me dead, and if not for my friends, I think they would have succeeded. I knew this was revenge for Mark, and I wasn't at all surprised. 6 weeks later, feeling much better, I made a call to Mark's office. "Mr. Diamond, please," I said to his secretary. "I'm sorry, he's in a meeting. Can I take a message?" "Yes, please tell him to meet me at 1 p.m. this Friday at the French deli across the street." "I'm sorry, sir, I don't make appointments for Mr. Diamond." "Just give him the message. Write this down, 1 p.m. Friday, French deli. Be there alone. Johnny." Just hand him that, and he'll know what it means. Friday at lunch, I sat at a table facing the door when Mark walked in alone. He saw me and approached the table. "Sit down," I said. "What do you want?" He spat out. I ignored his outburst and spoke calmly. "Thanks for coming today. Your men did a good job on me, but unfortunately for you, they didn't finish the job. Since you didn't listen to my warning about revenge, you forced me to act." I handed him a folded piece of paper. "Here is a link to a website that's set up just for you. Don't bother trying to shut it down. It's being run out of Syria with 3 redundant servers at different locations. It's untraceable, and even if you found the first location, there's 0 chance of finding the other 2. What I'm saying is, you're screwed, and I own your future." Mark's anger was rising. "Look, you've already ruined my life. I'll never be the same again. Just stop this, or I promise you'll regret it. You see, right there is why we're here today, Mr. Diamond. I want to put an end to this. You took away the most precious thing in my life, my wife. You destroy our 20-year marriage, and I can't allow you to walk away free. I'll take the risk of whatever happens, but I intend to get my revenge for the beating your men gave me." "Okay, settle down. What do you want for this to go away? Two things, non-negotiable. You will stop any revenge on me or anyone I know, including Jessica. You will deposit $1 million into this account by the end of the day Friday. If the funds aren't there by 9:00 p.m., I'm taking you down. I know what you're worth, and I know what I can get in a lawsuit. Consider this a gift. And if I agree, how do I know you won't destroy me anyway? You won't. I'm a man of my word, and you'll have to trust me. If you don't do this, there's a 100% chance this site will be famous by Saturday morning. By the way, do you know how I found out about your affair with my wife? No, I was wondering about that. At your last company dinner, I caught your arrogant smirk after you danced with my wife. That smirk set off alarms and caused me to investigate. You were one of the cockiest men I've ever met, and I hope you suffer for the rest of your life for what you've done to my marriage. The money was transferred. We sold the house and split the assets. Jessica would have enough funds to live a comfortable life, as long as she continued to work or found another husband. Mark kept her employed as part of our deal, but they were never intimate again. Jessica never remarried, rarely dated, and lived with the pain she caused both men. She lost her marriage and the love of the man she wanted to be with for the rest of her life. In the end, she ended up alone and depressed. She died before her 50th birthday, a broken, sad woman. Only her daughter Sarah attended the ceremonial spreading of her ashes. Johnny continued to work for a few more years and retired to a small oceanfront town. He married a pleasant woman who pleased him mentally and emotionally, but he was never able to replace the special love that only Jessica could give him. They never spoke again, and he only heard about her from Sarah, who he adored. They talked every day and stayed close, but Sarah rarely brought up her mom because she knew her dad still loved her and didn't want to bring back the pain. Her death saddened him, but it also brought some final closure to the deep hurt he kept locked away. At a coffee shop this morning, I read a sign and reflected on my life. We think we want sex. It's not always about sex. It's intimacy we want, to be touched, looked at, admired, smiled at, to laugh with someone, to feel safe, to feel like someone's really got you. That is what we crave.